Hello and welcome to another episode of Redefining Customer Journey Management, where it is our job to bring together world-class CX professionals and deconstruct their strategies, tactics, struggles to give you the techniques, methods, and perhaps even resources to start redefining customer journey management in your organization. My name is Jochem van der Veer. I'm the co-founder of TheyDo, and we're a software platform for journey management. And we are designed to give teams an overview to manage their workflow from insight to implementation in one place. And my co-host today, as always, is Harold Lamberts, the founder of Essence, CX consultancy specialized in customer journey-driven design. And there's no doubt that there's a match given that tools and way of working go hand in hand, but that's not the reason that we started this series. There's something happening in our domain of customer experience. And we have gone past the journey mapping stage from all over the place to one place. And companies are now transforming towards journey management. And we have made it our mission to help accelerate this change. But besides helping companies and their leaders accelerate, we believe customer journey management is also going to become the next thing in business. And in this series of live streams, we're discovering exactly how. By the way, we are now 4 episodes into this series, and we are also truly amazed by the response we get. And the people that are reaching out asked us, really to give practical examples, how it actually happens. So today, that is what we aim to do. And we have invited 2 new guests to the show. They've earned their stripes in journey management, both focusing relentlessly on delivering great customer experience, but do so in very different roles. So without further ado, I want to introduce our guest. And the first guest of today is Mijke from Ballegooijen. And she's a commercial leader, former director CX at KLM. And with 14 years of experience in driving this change, focusing on customer experience and operational excellence, she's actually driven by customers as much as results. In her new role at Guidion, which we'll hear more about in a minute or two, she has done an amazing job in connecting operations with the customer journeys. And today we'll dig into the practical aspects of how she's doing it. Mijke, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Looking forward to it.
Our second guest, Minyou, and she has roots in service design, so different background. Minyou is quickly accelerating the way of working at the KPN network around journeys. And she's responsible for bringing customer needs into the heart of the operation. And she's known for her structured approach to aligning teams and stakeholders all around customer journeys. And we can't wait to hear how she's doing that. So Minyou, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
We will also like you to join us because this is a live session. So we have Q&A at the bottom. We have chat if you want to ask your questions there. For Minyou, for Mijke, for us, you can ask us anything in between. I'll try to pick them up or do them at the end where there's room for Q&A. I will do a few polls along the way. And as always, before we dig in, let's see how we are actually shaping the model that we aim to figure out together in redefining customer journey management. Because we're focusing today on the third topic in the ones we defined in the first episode. If you haven't seen it, there's a quick link to go back to it after the episode of today. But let's define cross-journey collaboration, because that's what we're going to talk about. And maybe Harold, you can take us through what we mean with it and what we aim to figure out today.
Yeah, thanks Jochem. So in the first webinar of the series, we looked at customer journey management and we focused on all the key aspects of it. And then in the second and the third webinar, we zoomed in on those aspects. First, to focus on how we organize journeys. And we had 2 speakers from Vodafone and former Ace of Tate to talk about how we organize journey. What are the key journeys that you define as an organization? And then in the third webinar, we focused on how actually teams are organized. We had speakers from ING and also from RTL, talking about centralized and decentralized teams and how customer journeys are actually, teams are organized in the organization to work against it. But today we focus on collaboration from these journeys and to drive optimization and innovation in the organization. Like, how do you actually do it on a day-to-day basis, working together with disciplines on these journeys? In vertically structured organizations, which most organizations still are, these customer journeys cut across our departments, and to achieve real progress in terms of commercial success, but also customer satisfaction. Collaboration between these teams is absolutely crucial, and alignment with business stakeholders is required. Yeah, so, but then the question is, who is then overseeing these journeys? If they're running across vertical department, like who's overseeing these journeys, and how are the teams then prioritizing? How does it link to the operations and implementation, be it agile or not? Those are still questions that many companies are struggling with. So today we really want to hear from our guest speakers how their teams and how they are driving to facilitate this and streamline this collaboration on journeys across teams, disciplines, and departments.
Thanks. That makes a lot of sense. So let's start with a different question for the audience, and then we'll dig into a little bit talking about the journeys at KPN Network and how they exist and how Minyou is managing that. But I want to raise a poll, and the poll is for everyone to fill in, and just to get a sense of who's joining us today. What best describes the journey setup at your company? So are your journeys all over the place, using a single master journey, or are some journeys connected together? Is everything organized in a system, or don't you work with journeys yet? I mean, anything goes. We have seen different examples at different companies, so we can also tap into that. And while the poll is running, let me again welcome Herman to our show again, our great visual thinker, artist, and drawer, who will help us illustrate and make sense of what we are going to talk to today. We also hope to zoom in and out a little bit on the actual drawing he makes. So let's see how the discussion flows today. And what we aim to do is give practical examples today. And you will see also in the poll that we don't work with journeys yet, or journeys are all over the place. Is still something that a lot of you experience in your company. So Minyou, maybe we can start with you. And while doing research for today's topic, we have, I wrote down front yard as an example, and this led to a whole journey mapping endeavor at KPN Network. And for folks at home, maybe we can start there. Maybe you can explain what the front yard started, and then also explain what KPN Network does.
Yeah, yeah, sure. Yeah, so a little more than a year ago, I worked at KPN Consumer Market, and from that role, I joined the fiber team. And I started to dive into everything around the subject of fiber rollout to understand the process and also, of course, the effects on the customers. So you have to understand that rolling out fiber is quite an operation. So streets must be opened. We have to drill through the walls, in order to bring the connection into a house. And I remember that everybody who explained and told me about how this operation works and what is the effect on the customer experience, people made a big deal about people's front garden. So they said, they explained to me there's a burden for residents with the front garden because we have to dig into their garden, people have to move their car. Sometimes it happens that, for example, a garden gnome dies. Quite big problems and absolutely valid insights for a journey. And if you want to look at the context, but I was also questioning myself, how many people have a front garden? My feeling was that this journey that we are talking about was much envisioned from our own perspectives of wealthy people with houses with front gardens. So now we are a year further. I did a lot of research. I talked to people, customers with and without front gardens. So we have the life cycle or the journey of the houses with front gardens quite good. We have a quite a good view on this. And now the time also has come that we start roll out more and more into the urban areas, where we find a lot more high-rise buildings, so that are buildings without a front garden. And there you see that this, so that is a different experience. There are living different sort of people there, and the customer-centric idea. So what do people experience in the high-rise buildings started to be a discussion again.
So what you're actually saying is that your customer life cycle, I guess, from the moment they figure out fiber is a thing till the way you actually put it in place.
Yeah.
It's completely different for high rise versus low rise. And
well, it's not completely different. So we have indeed a customer life cycle, and we have a sort of a regular life cycle, and then we have sub journeys or sub life cycles for the different types of homes. So for high-rise buildings, or for new build homes, or company areas. So that is technically different, but you also see that the target group can be different in specific areas. Yeah.
So the life cycle is the same and the journey setup is different, what you're saying.
Yeah.
Can you give an example of the way you set it up?
Yeah, so the customer life cycle actually starts at the moment, as you said, that we announce to a resident that we are planning the construction work in their neighborhood, until the fiber connection is activated in the homes. And this whole operation can take up to 9 months, more or less. And in that 9 months, we see smaller journeys. So one of the important journey is that residents have to give permission. This is in order to allow us to make the connection into their houses. Another important moment or journey is the technical check in the house by a mechanical engineer to locate the right place for the connection. And here you see that the engineer really has to enter the house for this. So you can imagine that it influences the experience. Later on in the life cycle, during the real construction work, we have to access the houses again to actually make the connection. And then, of course, through the whole journey, there is a journey, or through the whole life cycle, there is a journey to keep residents up to date and to give them insights in the progress of the operation. And furthermore, we also have commercial journeys. So I work now at KPN Network NL, and we are responsible for the network. So it's our mission to replace the copper network for the fiber network. And we do this in all homes, regardless of people are KPN customers or not. So if you look at the commercial journeys, that is not our responsibility. That is KPN consumer market. But that doesn't mean that we completely ignore the commercial journeys, because you can imagine that for residents, for people, KPN Network NL journeys and the commercial journeys are actually difficult to distinguish. The people read only the first 3 letters, and that's KPN. So it's really an internal thing that it's different journeys. So therefore it is important for us as well to understand the commercial journeys and to give them a place in the operational journey.
So do you work with them then also to align, even though maybe you have to be supporting all the different companies that use that network? Do you also work with them on a journey level to align on this, or how does
yes, we do so, but we have to be careful, because we are a wholesale party, so we also deliver the network to other service providers. Yeah, of course, also for other service providers, we want the whole journey to be right. So it's good to understand what service providers do, and we work.
Level then.
Yeah.
So more on a generic level and not KPN specific, but more okay.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
And one other question.
And also because I see that for a customer, the journey is, or the life cycle is really at the end when they have the connection. So yeah.
You mentioned the high-rise versus the front yard example. Do you treat those two as one journey with two different target groups, or as two different journeys, one journey each? How do you organize?
That's a good question. We started actually, or what we do internally is that it's two different journeys with, well, two different life cycles, let's say so, with some of the same parts journeys under it, but some are different. For example, when you have to make an appointment, it's very different for high-rise because you have multi-level dependency, multi-household dependency, for example. I actually now start more to have a persona perspective. So that's something we are bringing in right now. And we see that in the high-rise buildings, we see more lower, how do you say, people from lower
income, you mean? Or?
Well, income, yeah. And it's not that in all the high-rise buildings are living those people, and that in low-rise buildings are not living those people. So, but we do see a bigger percentage of those people in high-rise buildings. So that's why we are focusing on that more and more. But we are trying now with personas to make them in every journey and in every life cycle a part of it.
Yeah, and I can also imagine, because you have one network, you don't have multiple networks, you have one network. So I can imagine you want to link it to one journey, but then be able to map out differences per target group. Yeah, so in a way, I can see.
How does this affect the inclusivity part of your business? Because I can see that when you try to serve everyone, or at least everyone in the Netherlands with a home, that there are so many different types of people that you interact with, but also maybe language barriers play a role. Is that a topic? How can you tell us a little bit how you handle these?
Inclusivity is a theme that is high on our agenda these days. And we are targeting on every household in the Netherlands. We see new challenges. So, for example, we see that people think fiber is not relevant to them, or we see that people don't open their doors because of language or cultural barriers. We also hear that people don't understand our letters, or we see digital illiterate people just drop out of the journeys. And I think our organization is too big to design different, all customized journeys, and for every building or for every house, their own journey. By using the persona, so we have one persona that represents the needs of inclusive groups, and in that way we try to make our colleagues aware of the fact that the solutions they come up with may not be suitable for everyone. And from there we can challenge them to redesign it. And I think if you look at designing communications or processes or services for the more low literacy people, it can only be good for also other target groups. Because if you make it easier, it will also help other target groups.
So bridging going to go to Mijke, because operations is an important factor here. But before we do that, I just want to figure out the other way around, because you're now talking about what you observe through research, but isn't it also true that the operations part of your business actually is the place where these insights are coming from? Or is it mainly you doing research with your team to figure out how to navigate these journeys together?
No, it's absolutely both. I think that challenges or opportunities pushed from the business, like call reduction, we have opportunities that we see from the customer journeys, and I think most often these opportunities are related to each other, because if we have many calls about a specific reason, there must be something wrong in the journey. So we have opportunities or focus points in our journeys that we prioritize based on customer and business value. And but we are also working on this to make it more data driven, to make it more structured. So it's now often also just a feeling that we think, okay, this is a big challenge, but we can improve on that, and we are really busy with that.
But it sounds like also people from operations, from a network operations, if they spot room for improvement or opportunities that they actually can communicate those to you, so you can incorporate them on the journey. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah. So the lines in our company are very short. So I speak to people that walk door to door, and I speak to the higher management people. So that is very valuable. I think that we have insights also from the field, and
people on the floor who actually experience direct interaction with customers and understand what is
exactly. You know. And we also work with multidisciplinary teams, and we also want those people also be part of the teams.
Cool. Well, that is indeed a great bridge, I think, to Mijke, our second speaker for today at Gideon, because Mijke is as a COO, you're clearly in operations and you're driving customer experience from within operations. How do you see this direct link between journey teams and operations?
Yes, I think maybe good to just do one step back. Before I worked for KLM, and I together with the team set up the customer experience department in KLM, and that was part of the commercial organization. And I think that with a lot of companies, a big role, or also how the organization saw our department, is from a consultancy perspective. So you do research, your journey teams, but you're either commercial, you're in a commercial organization, or you're consulting or giving advice. And I felt that a lot of energy was indeed spent on lobbying for your idea. Why was this so important? And also, I think not always on the spot, so maybe not feasible as an idea. So those are a few experiences that I had at KLM, and therefore when I left, I thought, okay, I really believe in customer experience management, but I would like to experience it from a position where I'm actually in charge of the operations. So that's how I got into Gideon, where indeed I have the COO position at this moment. And Gideon it's a company that's 16 years old, and we can always be very good in, especially the people side. So the concept of delivering happiness, happy employee, happy customers, let's say. But mostly focusing on that, and we've been very successful, but there comes a moment that it's also important to look at the needs of the other important groups, which in the case of Gideon is a little bit complicated because it's a B2B company. So we work with a platform, with a network of experts. So they're a very big customer group. We have our partners like KPN we've had in the past, and a lot of other companies. And of course the residents, because we actually come into those houses. So customer experience management was not something that was known in Gideon. So that's great because I could introduce it actually from my position. So that's where I had the opportunity to experiment. How is it if you introduce the concept of customer experience management from an operational job? And I have to say, I really like it.
Yeah. And I know you worked out in your team and worked out those 2 key journeys, and maybe a few more, but the key journeys of the technician or the expert, if you will, and also on the end customer side of things. Can you describe the journeys and also maybe slightly explain which roles are in those journey teams? To just give the people a bit of a feel of how that works.
Yeah, so maybe what is good to mention is that when I started in this role, let's say within the business or within the operations, there were project managers. So when we had to do something new or design, there were project managers in the organization. In the case of Gideon, that was actually a distraction because there's a lot of young people working there and everybody loves projects. So we had the same people who were managing the day-to-day operations and doing projects on the side. So the first thing that we did is actually take out the projects, let's say big change subjects, from the day-to-day operations. That's step one. And then the second was that we had a look at, okay, if you really want to innovate and you want to do it quick and you want to work with digital department, how do you, what kind of skills do you need? Because project management is a very important skill, but there are different levels of professionalization in that. So we actually hired some real specialists. We hired service designer, a UX designer, customer experience managers. So we brought in, let's say, expertise, and within these, let's say, team that was formed, we had multiple skills. So we had, let's say, the split between, let's say, day-to-day operations and then more the skilled, let's say, innovation or change part. And with those, we formed teams, multidisciplinary teams. So indeed, we have now a customer journey team and an expert journey team. And in those teams, we have a journey lead. We have a data analyst, because we also set up last year a central data science team. We have a product owner, so from the digital department. And we have shared resources, the UX designer and the service designer. And on topic, we have subject matter experts, as we call them, from the operations.
And a topic, can you give an example of a topic? Is that like a specific sector or technology that you're installing?
Yeah, so just very quick, what we do is we deliver and innovate technical services in and around the home. So if you want an internet connection, or you want heating, or you want a smart ring, or you want any technical things in and around your house, you go to big companies, and then often they hire us. We are white label, and together with those partners, we actually do the part of the journey that is the actual in and around the home service delivery. So that's why I also like this company, because it's crucial for the total experience of a brand. So it's quite a challenging part. And what we do is we take it really from the planning. So as soon as somebody bought, let's say for KPN a membership, a ticket would be sent to us, and then we would plan, plan, and then actually have it done and report on it. So that's part.
Is that also like the journey, Mijke? So when you look at, do you also work with a life cycle journey, or do you have those journey teams with different type of horizon journeys? How can we tell the audience at home how that is structured? Can you share?
Yeah, so we took, because indeed in the past we looked just at what we do, but now we made the micro journeys. Actually, Harold helped us with that. So we look at from a customer perspective, if we take that one, and that is really, okay, I'm aware that my internet doesn't work well. Maybe I should look for another company. Then they start to orientate, and then they buy, and and then it needs to be installed, it needs to be maintained, it needs to be serviced until the customer leaves. So that's the customer life cycle, and we do a part of that. So that's, but we indeed decided to do the entire journey from a customer perspective, because of course, if KPN promises something when they're selling a membership and we cannot actually deliver that because they still have copper and not fiber in that village, it's difficult for our expert to manage it when they're in the house. So we took the whole journey, but if I can make an example from a journey team perspective, Harold, coming back to your question, for instance, what we found out is that in our self-service tool, residents they get a message from us and they can book their own appointment. We have 2-hour appointment slots, but sometimes they can't find the slot that they want, and then they start calling us. Now, the journey team found this out. They from our customer research, this was a major irritator. And then they checked with the service desk manager, who became the subject matter expert. Do you recognize that you receive a lot of phone calls about having no slot in an appointment? Now, it turned out from their data that indeed a lot of phone calls are about this topic. So then, together with the product owner, and then you also have to have some deaf people on board, we designed a new user experience, let's say, in our service tool, so that the customer actually, and this is, it's an interesting approach for now, they can do a fake booking. So they think they can book, and then we have at the background, we manage it, let's say, within our network, but it's much more efficient and less time consuming, and the customer always thinks that they can get their slot. So this is how we did it, but you can see we had to work with almost every department in the company to come to this end solution.
Yeah, and it's interesting also that you say that it comes from different sources. So also like the nice to hear that the journey perspective that also helps seeing those inputs from different moments in the journey to make this a priority, so that you can find a solution with your digital team. Can you talk a little bit about when you spot these, like who is the person spotting this, and how does that then get prioritized to say, hey, let's create this? Can you talk briefly to that?
Yeah, so actually an issue can be raised by anybody in the company. Even I pitched a subject the other day for the first time because I saw nobody was taking it. That's always the touchy topics. But in principle, everybody can pitch. And what we do is we actually followed the Google model, 70-20-10, where 70% is really the big topics that need to be pitched because you need shared resources. The 20% is something ad hoc, that we think that any of the resource, like either the data analyst or like configuration, a small thing that should be done quick. And then 10% is ludique, as we call it, for the engagement of the teams itself, let's say, any crazy idea. So what we do, so it's pitched, and then we decide whether it's one of the three, and then it gets prioritized, let's say, we have a whole Kanban approach, but and that works, but you probably want to hear also what is challenging.
Let's go.
Let's go. Yep. What we saw is that one of the big, I think that if you take out change from the business, even though it might be under the same roof, that's why it works, because we have the same, objective as a team. You need to be very sure that this service designers and journey managers don't get so excited about each other that they forget again the business. So this is one challenge. So we noticed that they really went really fast. We said, no, you are actually in the operations. Don't forget to bring them. So that always remains a challenge. They don't have to lobby anymore for all the topics, but that's important. Secondly, is that this team did facilitate the portfolio process. So at first we thought the prioritization, if you objectify that as much as possible, let's say the journey teams should be able to do it without the business being there the whole time. However, what happens then is that you, from a business perspective, you see the outcome. And then you need to have a lot of trust in the process to believe that the objectification of this process was done correctly. So we found out that although we did some checks, it's very far, and actually for a large extent it is possible to be done by people who actually know how much time it costs, etc. But it is still important to make the trade-off transparent to the business. So what we're currently doing is we are actually shifting the ownership of the portfolio management process to the business management team, operations and commercial actually. We are actually letting them really prioritize. So that was a challenge, and I think this should work better. We're in the process. The next challenge is going to be, are you really going to have all these people that are, of course, an important group of people in your company, prioritize every single item? Because there are, of course, also small features and small items. And that we haven't worked out yet. So we're now going to experiment, because what do you prioritize and what do you not have them prioritize? And I think that's still going to be an experiment.
Is everything connected to the journey visually? So you have customer journeys, you have the insights, the opportunities from these journeys. Are then also the priorities connected back visually to that the business can see it in this way?
Yeah, so indeed what we did with Harold actually is we made the as-is journeys.
Yeah.
We thought, okay, we really want to deliver because we've been talking so much about journeys and process. We just, we're young, we want to deliver. So we did a quick step and we started developing a few things. But of course, then came the discussion, why are we developing this? Is this really the priority? Are these really the priorities? So we are now very quickly making the to-be journeys so that we can actually see the biggest gaps. And especially for that, we need to prioritize better on a strategic theme level. And I think that that's going to be key also in the process that we're going ahead, the phase we're going into now, that from an leadership team perspective, we should give direction on the themes, and then the business and management team can prioritize on how are we going to get there. So this is the next step, which is important.
So actually, we're going too far into being customer centric. We also need to involve the business. That's actually what you're saying. But Minyou, when you hear this, I mean, this sounds quite similar to how your business operates and bringing operations in. You mentioned that you're prioritizing customer value, business value, and then looking at the different levers there. Can you tell us a little bit about the systems you have already in place or you're working on to get in place to work like that? Do you also work with current and future journeys and the opportunities are in between them? Or can you explain how you actually are setting up this workflow?
Yeah, so we indeed also work with current and future journeys, and then we have focus points, as I told you before, how to come from the current to the future journey. And what I also learned in the past year actually is that I think before I was focusing much on the future journey, but I got some resistance from colleagues because they want to see difference tomorrow, now, as soon as possible. And yeah, mostly the focus points or the biggest opportunities are can cost a lot of time and effort to implement. So we also have more a short improvement loop. So that's the place where ideas also from everywhere in the company come together, and that we can just do. And next to that, we have more the bigger improvements and the bigger roadmap items that we have to plan. So I think that's very important also to get colleagues, to let them believe in the customer-centric way of working, because they also see on a short term what we can change. And so we are now experimenting. We're busy making everything more data-driven, because I'm also experiencing, of course, your as-is journey is continuously changing. So before we saw the as-is journey as a sort of static state, but so we now see the future journey as our vision, the where we want to go to, and the as-is journey, we are improving it continuously to get to the future journey.
And Mijke, do you recognize this also? I can imagine if you, now that you're working in the to-be state, are you also plotting data that you get from the operational excellence side of things on this journey to both look at the customer needs perspective and your operational goals?
Yeah, indeed. So that's why we found it important to have a data analyst in every journey team standard. And I really believe in the combination of the operational data with the customer satisfaction data. I mean that's the most interesting. And actually, my experience in a big company that there's sometimes a wall between those. So actually, the biggest challenge is to actually get access to all that data. That problem we do not have in Gideon. I think we have a bit too much data democratization. I heard that it's called. But we are now, as we speak, really connecting the two, and I think that's really interesting. I think when I worked on this, because this is more advanced, once you make your journeys dynamic, I mean, we're still dreaming on it. I don't know how far you are, Jochem, in the development of your tooling, but I haven't seen a tool yet that can really visualize dynamic journeys based on KPIs. So once you have that, I'm interested to talk, but that would be my dream.
Yeah, we can schedule something after this series for sure. So maybe zooming out a bit, what I like and what you're both saying is that getting that central overview where you have current journeys, future journeys, everything in one system that shows everything, how everything is connected. I want to tie this also into a question for the audience, and just from both of your perspectives, who's actually having access to the central overview? I mean, you two obviously have and create it. And who is actually responsible for maintaining it? Is it just you? Do you have a team on it, or is everybody supposed to work in this overview? I want to have an answer from both of you, and I'm also going to ask the audience in the meantime. Is there someone having a central overview of all these journeys, and who is responsible? And I would like to have a little bit of a discussion and hear how you are doing that. So maybe Mijke, you want to start?
Yeah, so we have a journey lead in a team who is, let's say, functionally leading the team and owner of the vision and the performance of the specific journey. And then there is actually the head of the change department who is in the end responsible for, let's say, the total journey vision and overview of we have 4 in our case, 4 micro journeys. So that will be that person, and in that role, of course, he's in close cooperation with the leadership team. So we together with him set strategic direction.
Okay, so about 50% of your whole organization has access to this overview, or 20%, or 100%?
100%.
100%.
Yeah, but we are full transparency, yeah?
Okay.
We have no holiday policy, just to give you an idea. So it's a whole different ball game.
Oh, I love that. That's actually sometimes not so useful, because then people don't take holidays. I heard also, but feedback. Yeah, that's pretty good. So Minyou, how is it in your company? Like, you are the puppet master, let us say, maintaining all these journeys, creating overview, but who else is involved?
Yeah, so we have a very small CX team at this moment, but we are on a mission to make this bigger. And so I would answer in the poll working on it, because so we don't have it in place yet, but our management team at this moment really believes in it, and they want to go this way, and the customer-centric way of working. So we are now starting experimenting with a sort of concept teams, and then we have the customer journeys visually, and everybody can access them. But I also see that what I said before, they are also continuously changing, actually, and not not like big changes, but we are experimenting. For example, at what moment we are sending a letter or a message to customers, and it really influences the customer experience on some points. So there are in that way many versions of the customer journeys around, and we try to use the company meetings to explain, to present the journeys, to tell the whole company where our focus is in this quarter or something. So we are really working to get it more structured, and that not I and my 2 colleagues are the only ones who have the central overview, but that we can share this.
When you hear like the 100% transparency, how would you apply that on your KPN network organization? Is that something that makes sense there too?
Yeah.
Skipping the holidays, obviously.
No. We are also quite transparent, but it still is quite a big company with a lot of departments, and then we also have the thing with the consumer market, KPN. So not everybody. So I wouldn't say that we are 100% transparent. There's always also like, what can we say to our colleagues from consumer market, and so there.
What is interesting, because the thing that you both share is also that you have this providers that you basically, as a white label or supporting multiple companies. I'm wondering, do you also collect needs from your B2B customers to plot like a partner journey, and then see how your own operational journeys fit within that? Is that something you're keen to do, or doing already, or? I mean,
we have recently made our partner journey. So it's with the engineers, with the I don't know how you call it, the gemeentes, and we have the rental partners from the houses. well, so a lot of partners, and yeah, I'm now actually currently putting those together. So I see also that a journey for a customer or for a resident really depends on what what was in before between KPN Network NL and the rental partner. I don't know.
I mean, this ecosystem journey, is that something you're also looking to collect partner insights in that context?
Yeah, absolutely. We're not there yet. That would be a next step. Absolutely, yeah.
Cool.
And now we measure we are part of, let's say, the customer surveys of our partners. They ask satisfaction and even satisfaction on our experts and also impact on their NPS. But in the end, of course, we would like to have our own NPS and customer satisfaction. So that's the next step. But we're not there yet. We have still a long way to go.
Great ambitions. Great ambitions.
I want to move into the Q&A a little bit before we almost wrap up, because time flies when you're having fun. And actually, maybe, I don't know, I think you can speak a little bit to it. Bas de Jong asks, is there also some urgency component to prioritization? Or when prioritizing, you look at what is important now and what is important later? Do you factor that in? Mijke, you want to tell us a little bit how you do that? Or not at all?
Yeah, it is, of course, if you look at, I don't know if that's answering the question exactly, but we look very much at dependencies. So if you have a certain strategic objective, you want to reach that, but you know that for that, we need to do a few things in the data warehouse, for instance, or with our digital platform, then that would be a reason to do it quicker than you would have otherwise taken it up. So I think it's much related to first strategic direction, then looking back, okay, what is needed for that? What are dependencies? And then that increases the urgency for those topics.
Yeah. What about you, Minyou? Is urgency one of the levers you pull in prioritization?
Yeah, it is. I think it's similar. So, for example, when from the strategic level, there comes a new way of rolling out technique. Yeah, then we have to design that new journey, and we work with projects. So if they say we're gonna start with this in September, so yeah, then urgency absolutely plays a role in prioritization. Yeah.
Yeah, indeed, if I may add to that, of course, also the priorities of our partners. So it's very nice challenge always to have then, I try to have the quarterly, and then we say, okay, so can we look a little bit ahead? What are your ideas? And then convince our partners, no, maybe we should take the topic there because we know how big our backlog is. So this is a big challenge too, and definitely a driver for urgency.
Can you, let's see, I'm going to pull up Herman's drawing a little bit, and then maybe for the closing question of today, because we've seen that both of your organizations use a lifecycle approach to figuring out what journey fits where and how to navigate customer experience and business priorities. And this question is from Jeroen. It made me smile a little bit. I will explain it better, but I'll read it how he phrased it is, and I guess you guys will both understand what we mean with it. And he said, what's the best way to make old people realize that everything is a journey? And I guess what he means with that is that old businesses structured vertically might not realize that actually everything is tied around the customer journey. So can you speak to what you have seen to work in your companies that actually helps to transform or accelerate this thinking?
Maybe what works for me is I actually also do quite a lot of service blueprinting, and by showing people who are responsible for some process or some backend system the effect on the customer or the resident in our case, yeah, that actually works sometimes.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
So yeah, I like that way to give them the insight that also on that level that you are influencing the customer experience.
I like that, Minyou, because customer journey is not a research deliverable. Yeah? A customer journey is actually your core process delivering services to your customers. So if you can link your operations to it, that's why it makes it so nice to see that you ladies are both linked into operations.
Yeah.
It gives you actually a great opportunity to make everyone understand this is not some sort of research format. This is actually the way you operate, but just from a customer perspective. So I think if you can pick that up, then you can engage people, maybe also who have a slightly more conventional legacy thinking.
Yeah, exactly.
Mijke, how did you help Gideon to transform fast into this new mode of thinking? I'm not saying they were old, but maybe you have.
It's actually not a very good example because young people are indeed, and I'm old, so they are much more agile, I would say. So I think that if I look at KLM, where the age is a little different, I think indeed two things. First of all, when I started working with this subject, I always thought I did multiple commercial operational roles. I thought I always think from a customer perspective. So what is this? It's like a fashionable thing, and I thought I know exactly how to deal with customers. And then when you actually yourself make a journey, very simple journey, you already get a lot of like, oh yeah, I didn't think about it from that perspective. So we actually made journeys with the board of KLM also. So to let's say small journeys, but just for the exercise. So I think it's a great tool to have people realize.
Mindset,
And secondly is indeed to really see the effect if you only look at your part of the journey, what that means for the other. So another good example, indeed, I think KLM is a better one there, is there's a different team that is responsible for the gate process than on board. So you have a handover from the gate team to the cabin crew. But of course, from a customer perspective, it's the same flow. And I really liked the way the KLM, those two teams started working together from a journey perspective. And so they feel it and they realize, hey, that really makes an impact. So it's about experiencing themselves. One more note, if I may. Portfolio management, on the other hand, I thought easy, young team, Gideon, it's going to be, it's easy. But even there, portfolio management is also about letting go, losing a little bit of control, not having your own project managers and everything in your own hands, but having it done by shared resources. It's difficult for everybody, no matter age. You really have to build a lot of trust in your organization. People have to get together very often, be transparent of all the consequences of your decisions, and that simply takes time.
There's one more question from Akshay Darab. I hope I pronounce it right. I'm sorry if I don't. At you, Mijke, and it ties back into what you just said. And he asked, how do you coordinate efforts across build teams? I guess it refers to engineering teams, towards the teams if you are not working in projects, but manage the whole portfolio, I guess. How do you coordinate these efforts? I think it's partly using journeys, but maybe you have a different answer for Akshay.
So how you coordinate between projects, or?
Yeah, when not working in projects, but how do you keep everyone aligned across the organization?
Yeah, indeed, it is. I think it is the customer journey. So what I like about working from a journey perspective is that it gives the dot on the horizon. So you understand, it's easier from a whole organization to work to for a certain objective. So that's why I think that strategy has to be part of the strategy. And it's the only way to really get the whole organization there. And honestly, we at Gideon, we have challenges there because we didn't finalize the to-be journeys. So our ambition from a journey perspective is not yet clear. So you see that people are discussing why are we working on this topic and not the other. So it's a challenge, but it is about the dot on the horizon. And to make it really concrete, I think it is about defining the consistent experience you want to deliver, and that gives good pointers in your design overall.
All right, let's take that as the ending of today's conversation. Time is almost up, and I really want to thank you, Minyou, Mijke, for joining us and also for giving all these practical examples. Herman has, I think, from all the episodes we did, had the hardest time keeping up with you guys. So thank you for that. We will work on a simplified version of it and share it around. It will turn up maybe even as features on our platform or in the Academy of Essence, because I have certainly learned a few new things, and I guess Harold as well today.
Absolutely.
So thank you both for joining us. Thank you everyone at home for another episode of Redefining Customer Journey Management, and we hope to see you next month. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah. Cheers.